Right, on with the business of the day then, which is a stage of 4 first category climbs to decide this Vuelta. The Puerto de Navacerrada is followed by the Morcuera, which the riders then double back on and climb from the other side. The final climb, the Puerto de Cotos, peaks out 18 kilometres from the finish in Cercedilla. Now, we don't often see much of the stage start town on the Vuelta, but today's was San Lorenzo de El Escorial. El Escorial being the historic royal palace, come pantheon, come monastery, so the national broadcaster made sure to have the helicopter up early. As well as deciding the Vuelta, of course, stage 20 is the last chance for a breakaway win, and a huge group got away, with riders representing every team in the race but giant Alpecin and Orica Greenedge. Ruben Plaza of Lampre got away off the front of it, and on the second ascent of the Morcuera, the group behind, containing teammates of Fabio Aru, Joaquin Rodriguez, Nairo Quintana and Alejandro Valverde, began to split up. So did the main field containing those riders, as Astana started to up the pace 10 minutes back down the climb.
Well, the first big move of the day, and it comes on the penultimate climb, the Puerto de la Morcuera. Landa opening things up for the white jersey of Fabio Aru and taking with him Quintana and Maika, and just a bit of a gap opening up already to the red jersey of Tom Dumoulin.
Well, we know the lead rider, Rubens Plaza, just went over the top across the summit, so that means it's 10 minutes. It'll probably be a bit less. It'll probably bring back a minute or so, but it's going to be 10 more minutes climbing, essentially. So they've gone quite a far out, and there's still another climb to go. And we can see Tom Dumoulin behind. That's him leading this chase group. He's got no teammates left, so it's up to him to bring this back himself. So he's already having to do big efforts.
Well, there you can see the top 10 in the overall classification, borne out on the slopes of this mountain. Fabio Aru is on the road at the moment, moving himself into a position where he will, in a virtual sense at least on this penultimate climb, be leading the Vuelta very soon if this gap goes out any further. Remember, only 6 seconds separating Aru from Dumoulin, but Dumoulin, as ever, keeping cool and just riding within himself and dragging this group of other riders, other favourites, back to the wheel of the group of 4 who went off, and Dumoulin has closed the gap. It's a question of how many times can he be expected to put in that kind of effort.
Yeah, because I mean that's kind of what Aru needs to do. He needs to keep jumping him like that, because he's obviously caught him completely off guard. The fact that Quintana and Maika were able to go with him, he must have come from behind. We didn't actually see that, but he's kind of, this is now the position, now this is the worst position possible for Dumoulin, in that he's got no teammates to help him. Although saying that, Aru's only got 1 teammate. There's only 1 team there with 2 riders who want to work his Moby style, Quintana and Valverde, and there's their teammate up the road, Visconti, who's just about to go second over the climb, and DeMarco, who's in third. So that's the top 3 in the world on the road.
Well, Ruben Plaza leads the stage. He's 1 minute and 42 seconds ahead of that group of Visconti. Now Alejandro Valverde has popped. He's gone off the back of the group of favourites. We're expecting big things. He showed himself so strong yesterday. I wonder if that's told a little bit out today. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, he was so incredibly strong yesterday, and it seems to be having fun and was just carried away, and I think it kind of he's paying for that today, to be honest with you. I mean, or sometimes it's like they have days on, day off. We know he's been tired after the Tour de France. He's not been his best. Yesterday we saw him his best, but it has been very much hit and miss through this race.
Alejandro Valverde dropping out of the back of that group of favourites for now, as just passing over the top, the remains in dribs and drabs of a big breakaway group. You can see riders strewn out all the way across that climb, but very significantly, and it's something we've been watching all day, Movistar, including Visconti, who you saw in second place on the road, have 4 riders ahead of Nairo Quintana here on the road, and although they're some 7-8 minutes ahead of Quintana, I wonder how that's going to come into play as the rest of the stage unfolds. Remember, 46.4 kilometres of this race still to go.
Now, as Aru now goes.
Well, I thought he might. Aru looked as if he wanted to seize his moment again, and instantly a little gap opens up between the same 3 riders you saw manage to get away last time. It's Aru, it's Maika and Nairo Quintana, and Dumoulin will have all of the rest on his wheel. They will not help at this point unless that gap goes, unless Dumoulin properly cracks, and the rest of them have to do it for themselves.
And it's the perfect situation for Aru, because he's got Quintana and Maika with him, and it's in their interest to ride with him. So if he can get that gap, he's got 2 guys who are going to ride with him, because they will move up in the GC as well. So this is actually kind of the dream scenario, which in the past we haven't seen. So he's already asking, that's a little flick of the elbow, asking Quintana to ride, but not yet. And now Tom Dumoulin, he's behind, and no one's going to help him. They're going to let him ride as much as possible, then watch and wait till he's tired, and then they'll attack him one by one.
Well, what you're looking at right now is a pivotal moment on the whole story of this year's Vuelta, because if you look at that gap and you time it from the moment that Aru passes a timing point and back to Dumoulin, it looks to me like it's 6 seconds. So what you're seeing here is the two great favourites of this year's Vuelta level pegging, but the gap is beginning to grow.
Yeah, and it's still a long way. I mean, 42 k's to go basically, and it's that's for the leaders. So they've still got 45 k's, 46 k's these guys go. So there's about an hour and a half or more racing because they've got still this climb to finish, then drop down and another cat one to go. So there's still a long way to go, and Aru's now on his own. He's got to hope Quintana is going to help him, but at the same time, Quintana can sit there, and if Quintana's on a great day, he can let Aru just use up all his energy and then attack him at some point.
Tom Dumoulin will be hoping that neither of the other two riders assist Fabio Aru in any way on this climb. Let's just have a look at this gap. That's 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is just beginning to slip away from Tom Dumoulin now, just into dangerous, really dangerous territory for him now. But Aru's going extremely deep here. This is a major effort, and he thinks this effort might well be Vuelta winning. Again, he looks over to Nairo Quintana. Micah just checks the time gap behind him visually to see if he can see the chase group, but these three are away for the time being. Joaquin Rodriguez just dancing on his pedals there behind the red jersey of Dumoulin. Chavez biding his time too with Mikel Nieve, and Landa is still there.
Yeah, and you can see it, they're just going to sit there. It's very similar, so you've got two different races going on. This first and second on GC racing against each other. Aru there in his white jersey leading Quintana and Micah. And Landa's now bridging across. So he's attacking, he's had a little break, he's now going to bridge across. You can see Tom Dumoulin's weakening. He can go up there and now work again for Aru. So hopefully his team director or Landa's going to say, I'm coming, like just wait for me slightly. Now they've all jumped in. This is what was going to happen. They're going to wait until he was tired and then attack one by one.
Big moments of distress this for the red jersey. Big, significant moments you sense for the Vuelta. Dumoulin in all sorts of bother. The other riders can no longer afford to wait on his wheel, and you can see all the poise and control that has so characterised his efforts thus far as his head just bows. He knows that he's really suffering here, and these are significant moments. Dumoulin in genuine bother, and the rest of the race has exploded in front of him, and they're all getting across one by one to the white jersey of Fabio Aru, who right now is racing himself into a Vuelta win.
And that was an incredible effort from Landa to bridge across, because he did it without taking anybody with him. They kind of got in, and then it's like he got there, and look, Aru's like waving to him to come up to the front immediately, because I think Aru's now panicking a bit. He's knowing how deep he's having to go, so having a teammate there is perfect.
Dumoulin, the race leader, makes it over on his own, just closing the gap to Mikel Nieve if he can. He has 48.8 kilometres to go now as the road goes downhill, and one more Category 1 climb to try and defend. He must get back onto that group if he has any chance of taking out the race win. Tom Dumoulin under a great deal of stress here. He has some 18 seconds disadvantage now, he and Mikel Nieve, to a group of favourites that have gone off. They attacked him on the climb and they've distanced him on the descent. But he's holding firm now. The gap has not gone out, and 19 seconds, if it comes back, is not the end of the world. Not just yet for Tom Dumoulin. He must, if he can, maintain the belief that this day is not over, and if he can find his form again on the final climb, he can still do this. But they were worrying moments for the red jersey on that climb.
Well, he needs to reattach himself to this group. These 6 riders here, they're all working together. Now got Landa on the front, who's just going to drive this for as long as he can, because at the moment Aru is now the virtual leader on the road. He is now leading the Vuelta. So there's in the white jersey, unofficially he's in the red jersey currently. And Tom Dumoulin, he's going to have to do the chasing. He hasn't got a teammate, so everyone there is getting protected by Landa's work, whereas Tom Dumoulin's having to chase himself. And although it's a descent, he'll be making the same effort as if it's a time trial, as if it's a climb. I mean, this is an incredible ride by Landa, making it back on, doing all the work, setting it up, then Aru attacking, then Landa having the kind of the tactical savviness to then counter-attack and go across, and knowing he could go back up there and help, because otherwise Aru would have been left up there kind of on his own, being forced to ride. Although all these guys in this group are going to move up 1 on GC, Chavez might possibly move up 2 on GC, because he was behind Valverde, and if he puts enough time in, Dumoulin's going to lose time, and also Valverde has a chance that it's a long shot, but he could move up into 5th place if Dumoulin really does nuke.
Well, draw breath. So much going on this race, and almost forgotten in the midst of it is Ruben Plaza on his own. What a ride it's been from him, even if it comes to naught. I mean, he's been out there for more than 70 kilometres in the wind and the heat and over mountains on his own.
He's bringing it back, Tom Dumoulin. It's down to 14 seconds now, so it did go up to 20 seconds just before. So he knows now he has to bring it back. He has to take his... This is the time we've seen in the past be quite cautious in the descents. Now he has to take all the risks. This is his Vuelta. It's disappearing from him, and he has to get on before his descent finishes, because if he doesn't, Landa will put time into him, and Landa will protect his team leader, Aru, and Tom Dumoulin has got to work. This is where Tom Dumoulin really needs to have a strong team around him, or could have done on the previous climb, because as we've seen often, he's isolated when it gets incredibly difficult.
Rubin Plaza still on his own, still maintaining a very healthy lead, 1 minute and 17 seconds, that gap. Interesting though to watch the time gaps just ticking over. It's gone out to about 15, 16 seconds occasionally between the white jersey and the red jersey. So try as he might, Dumoulin is not bringing it back, not just yet. 17 seconds now, the gap between Aru and Dumoulin, as the quartet of chasers continue to try and do something about Rubin Plaza.
Look at Aru going on his own now. He really is just going for this. And Landa now is just going to sit on the back and let the other guys close that gap. There's no point in him sitting on and letting, kind of protecting. He's got to make the other guys work as well. So, because this group, they shouldn't just rely on Landa. If they want to move up, they can't just let Aru and Landa do it on their own. They have to come up and contribute, because there is also the fear that Quintana kind of counters attack. We've seen him being very quiet, sitting on Aru's wheel the whole time. There's a chance that he might go at any moment. 14
seconds between Dumoulin and Aru.
And there you see Tom Dumoulin and I got the motorbike in sights, the little motorbike that's chasing, kind of, because this has all happened so quickly in the races. So many groups are everywhere. There's no cars, there's no neutral service. It's quite kind of risky. If a puncture happens for one of these guys, got the mutual service motorbike, and there's the yellow motorbike we just saw at the shot. That's what Tom Dumoulin can see in front of him. That will be his objective at the moment, just get to there.
If he's going to have a chance of saving the Vuelta, he needs to believe in himself right now, and he needs to find strengths of reserve that he's shown repeatedly, let's not forget, when he's been asked difficult questions on the race. There he is, the red jersey, and when the road straightens out, you will see that sextet of riders just up the road.
We know how strong Tom Dumoulin is, and this is kind of entering into his territory, the flat. If Navy does come by, there's a chance it'll slow it down. So sometimes Tom Dumoulin's just going to have to, he's going to have to take the responsibility and do this, because although Navy can help him, it will kind of, they'll start to open the gap up. And Navy will come round, and there you go, Tom Dumoulin's just having to ask, oh, he jumps him. There you go.
Well, Dumoulin needs to use this opportunity. He needs to take that wheel and let Nieve do a shift, because just visually, it looks like they're coming back. That group doesn't look too far up the road. In fact, I wouldn't believe those times. That's more like it. I think it's something like, I think it's under 10 seconds now.
You can see it, and you see Landa keeps... Oh, they just caught one of their teammates. It's Zeitz. So this is brilliant. This is the perfect scenario. It's there Zeitz, who was in the break before, who they've just caught. So he can now sit on the front and save Landa from working.
And for the third day in a row, Edouard Vorganov is that Katusha rider who now joins Joaquim Rodriguez. That's a trick that they've played 3 times in succession. Vorganov in the breakaway 3 times, and now he, just like Zeitz can join for Aru, will help Joaquim Rodriguez out. Of course, Tom Dumoulin doesn't have that luxury. He had all his team, one of only 2 teams with Orica Green Edge who didn't put a rider in that big move today. So he has no one up the road to benefit from.
Yeah, this is the worst case scenario for Tom Dumoulin, and honestly, that would have been the better tactic for him, to have had riders up the road in the breakaway and not ridden behind. That way, he knows his team's not strong enough when it gets hard, but it would mean when it rips to pieces, they'd be catching up his teammates who are already further up the road from the break, just as happened with Zeitz here, who we'd actually kind of forgotten about. We'd forgotten he'd dropped off, and that would have been their tactic. As soon as he heard that Aru had attacked, he'd have basically put on the brakes, started having gels, drinking, getting ready for when they caught him.
Wow, Andre Zeitz, Luis Leon Sanchez and Mikel Landa to look after him with 1 climb remaining and the red jersey in trouble.
And they're good riders. We've seen in the last couple of days when Zeitz has been one of the strongest domestiques in the race. We see, and as he just keeps going, he's like the Duracell bunny. And you've got Luis Leon Sanchez, who's one of the strong guys as well. So this is kind of, it's not as if they're smallish domestiques. These are the strongest guys that Astana have. 28 seconds gap, so this is the difference. Now there's Zeitz there and Luis Leon, who have had a pause, although they're up the road all day. When they'll have heard Aru attacked, they'll have rested, and they'll have spent kind of about 10 minutes just kind of rolling along, waiting for that group to come. So they'll be freshened up, and now they know they've only got to do. Here's Zeitz in the front. He's probably only got about another 10 minutes effort in his race, and then his Vuelta is essentially over, and he'll hopefully set a team leader up for victory. And there's Luis Leon, who hasn't even done a tap.
There we go. That's Fran Ventoso, I think, the first of those Movistar Dumoulin riders who I just spoke about.
So he'll be dropping. See the way he's dropping back? He's going back to help Valverde. So that's what he'll have been orders. That's the way he didn't even think about going in that group. The way he was like, that's what Zeitz and Luis Leon Sanchez would have been doing before, waiting for Aru. But obviously he's been ordered back to, Ventota's been ordered back to help Valverde. So he didn't even hesitate about going in that group. That's not his job. He's been told on team radio, you wait for Valverde.
Which would imply that Valverde is still within contact at least, and may even be rejoining that Dumoulin-Nieve group. Well, it's all working out according to Tom Dumoulin's worst nightmares at the moment, and just as you see the white jersey with 3 teammates leading him out onto the final climb, this is a perfect day so far for Fabio Aru. Well, the red jersey, Tom Dumoulin, battled incredibly hard to keep himself in contention. He was attacked on the penultimate climb of the day by Fabio Aru and then by the rest of the big GC favourites. He dug in, he tried to limit his losses, but he found himself without a teammate and very quickly in checkmate and in a hopeless position. The race just got away from him and it is over. His dream of winning the Vuelta is definitively over. A question now arises: how far down the pecking order he will drop by the end of today. Meanwhile, Astana and the rest of them are setting things up for a tremendous finale on the final climb. And Nairo Quintana looked for all the world like he wanted to attack, and he's decided with a few kilometres remaining of the climb up the Puerto de Cotos that now is his time. He's looked really fresh today, and Rafa Maica responds, and for now there is no response as yet from Fabio Aru sitting behind that blue train, but Quintana goes and he can do some damage here to all the rest. He has.
We haven't seen many attacks like that in this race. Normally when a rider goes, he's always got something on his wheel, but he made such a big gap there. But we can just see how strong Maica is. Now Maica's defending. He's basically defending his podium place, because at the moment with Dumoulin dropping down and losing continually more time, Maica's moving onto the podium, and Quintana's now trying to challenge him for that.
Well, Quintana has 31 seconds deficit to Rafa Maica, the man on his wheel going into today's stage. And if you look further ahead, if he's dropped Joaquin Rodriguez definitively, as he appears to have done for the time being, he has 1:38 deficit to Joaquin Rodriguez. Meanwhile, a dreadful day, getting worse and worse for Tom Dumoulin. His disadvantage over 2 minutes now, and he's slipping off the podium if things carry on like this.
And Aru's, I mean, it's interesting to see. I mean, I presume he's just keeping a cool head. The fact he's got 2 teammates who are strong with Landa there and Luis Leon Sanchez. He's not panicking. I mean, after all, Quintana's 3 minutes, 2:56 behind him, and Maica's 2 minutes 25. So they're not an immediate threat. So he may as well use his teammates for as long as possible rather than going chasing after them himself. Here goes kind of to the top of the climb now for Ruben Plaza. This is an incredible ride. He attacked over 115 Ks from the finish, which is
absurd.
It's a pretty rare feat. Right? Yeah. And it's we kind of thought, I mean, we were critiquing him before. We were saying that this seems a bit of a silly tactic, and yet it's not in the slightest if you've got the legs to do it, and he definitely seems to have the legs to do it. These 3 riders...
Well, they're not messing around, these 3. They're some of the strongest riders in the race. Giovanni Visconti, Alessandro Di Marchi and Jose Gonzalez all mean business here, and they can do nothing about Ruben Plaza. Meanwhile, Rafa Maica just moving in front of Quintana, and the 2 are sharing the workload for the time being.
Yeah, this is perfect now, because it's an opportunity for Quintana, because Rodriguez is still behind. Remember, Rodriguez is sitting there in the green jersey on Aru's wheel, and so Quintana is actually behind. Rodriguez currently in 2nd place on GC as it stands. So Maica, if he can get 1 minute 6 seconds out of Rodriguez, he moves on to podium.
1 minute and 7 seconds is what he'd need to actually get his nose in front. But, well, he's looking great, isn't he?
Listen, look at Quintana's in the big ring there. So he's climbing in the big ring up this mountain, which is pretty incredible.
As Ruben Plaza takes his extraordinary solo ride into the final 18 kilometres. It doesn't go instantly downhill. There are something like 8 kilometres of plateau before it does start to drop down to the finish. Tom Dumoulin is now over 2 minutes. Well, it's 3 minutes now. 3 minutes. That a minute has just been chipped away incredibly quickly. So Dumoulin is tumbling out of contention.
That's him out of the top 5 now currently. So he really is just dropping down, sadly.
And if the helicopter just widens out, we might be able to catch a glimpse of Maica and Quintana and how far they've got up what remains of this climb. but probably it's too far for the shot to show because they've opened up a significant gap. No panic then, and there doesn't need to be as yet for Fabio Aru. But Joaquim Rodriguez is in a different situation altogether. He's, well, if he's capable of going on the attack and trying to do something about Quintana, he's going to have to. 31 seconds separated Quintana and Maika. And there is Alejandro Valverde. He's found himself company in a large group. Oh, that's Luis Meinquez alongside him as well. So Domenico Pozzovivo, I think it's Dani Navarro. So he's not on a day today. Most of these riders in the... That's Andre Zeitz. That was Moreno, was it?
Yeah.
Just going through. And there is Dumoulin. Oh, everybody just sitting on his wheel.
Yeah, that's just the hell position now for Dumoulin. They've caught back up with him, and they're just going to sit on him, and they'll probably start jumping him one by one again as he gets nearer the summit. So he's just a sitting duck at the moment, Dumoulin, without teammates. But you can see the speed that Quintana's coming up here. I mean, what is that? I think we've got he's got about 30 seconds from the last time check we saw on the white jersey group of Aru. So it's a pretty devastating attack. It's very similar to what he did at the Tour de France on the final climb of the race on Alpe d'Huez, which goes to show just kind of what specimen he is as a Grand Tour rider and climber. There's not many guys who can be that strong at the end of the race.
Very attentive riding, though, from very strong riding too from Rafa Maika, who is able to live with this little acceleration of Nairo Quintana and then go past him. The climb has run out for Quintana, and this is territory you would imagine that would favour over the top Rafa Maika a little more than it does Nairo Quintana, the flat roads and then the descent. These two separated by 31 seconds in their respective positions on GC, but they may be moving up, both of them, past Joaquim Rodriguez by the end of the day. And you see the green jersey there, sensing a threat. He's got a teammate with him, and he moves to the front. He's not happy any longer with the pace that Astana are leading up Fabio Aru. There you are. They've made junction with a Movistar rider.
Yeah, and I think that's Amador. So that's was one teammate's been waiting for him. So now he's going to do a time trial and try and get across that plateau, the next 7 Ks of relatively flat before the descent drops. And this is where they have to make the time, because once they get to the top of the descent, there's not going to be much time to be made in the descent. 33, 34 seconds, something like that. 35 seconds, the gap that Quintana and Maika have opened up over Joaquim Rodriguez, who wanted his teammate there to do a little bit more. I think he's had to move to the front. I think Vorganol's just tired. He couldn't do it, and that's why Joaquim Rodriguez, this is it. This is essentially the last 14 Ks of the Vuelta for Rodriguez, and even less than that, because if he doesn't bring that time back now on the plateau, if he sits up now and lets other people do it, he's not going to bring it back on the descent. So it's now or never for Rodriguez.
Well, Rafa Maika wanted to make up 1 minute and 7 seconds to Joaquim Rodriguez. Quintana wanted to make up 1:38. The only thing we know with absolute certainty at this stage is that Tom Dumoulin will not be winning the Vuelta. Everything else, though, all the other positions are still up for grabs. With 6.1 kilometres remaining and absolutely no sign of any weakness and no sign that either Demarchi or Gonçalves can substantially change the situation, and a gap of 1 minute and 23 seconds, Ruben Plaza is beginning to ride himself into the history books on stage 20 of the Vuelta. Two-time Spanish national road race champion, of course, in a breakaway on stage 10, 11, 13, and now on stage 20. Looks like he's made it stick. So Plaza closing in on a famous stage win. Meanwhile, the green jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez is involved in a tussle between him and Rafa Maika, who last time we got a time check was about 45 seconds to the good from Joaquim Rodriguez. If Maika can take another 25 seconds out of Rodriguez, he'll be moving himself into second place behind the white jersey, which is very soon to become the red jersey of Fabio Aru. Dumoulin, as you can see by the red jersey at 7 minutes 39, he's over 4 minutes behind the white jersey and out of contention. The race is gone for him. Plaza, though, holding off this chase from Gonçalves and Demarchi, two of the strongest riders on the Vuelta, been in breakaways, both of them repeatedly, and so too has Plaza. But you take your opportunity. You don't often take it from 115 kilometres out, but when opportunity comes knocking, this is precisely what you need to do.
Aru's fairly relaxed now. He knows he's essentially got the Vuelta wrapped up if nothing happens, but you've got Joaquim Rodriguez, who now has to defend his podium because he's got 4th and 5th Rafael Maica and Nairo Quintana up the road in front, racing for those places. So that's why we see Joaquim Rodriguez and Voganov going so hard now. And Astana is playing a fairly safe game because they now could just put themselves in a defensive position and profit off the fact that Joaquim Rodriguez has to defend his second, what is on the road second place.
Well, it is all downhill and it's going to be rapid. So Plaza is closing in. He's got 3.3 kilometers to go. That's the red jersey group containing the Spanish national champions jersey as well, Alejandro Valverde. One good day yesterday, one not so good day today, and he is losing time.
And this is the Quintana and Maica group, and you can see how fast they're going down. The fact it's ripping the group to pieces. So Nairo Quintana and Maica will be the front two riders in this group, and they're setting such a pace that everybody's just losing the wheel.
But every now and again, the green jersey darts to the front, having to do his own defending for him, not able to rely on either the two Astana riders working for Aru or on his own teammate. So Rodriguez doing his own work for himself.
There's not much work to be done here. I mean, this is a very nice descent. It's very fast. It's big roads. It gets a little bit technical, as we saw in that corner just before when we were watching. That's the only corner that really catches you out on this. So it's not for another couple of Ks. It's only going to be the last couple of Ks where they might actually have to pedal. It really is just so fast. You just tuck up and hope you've got a big enough group to rotate.
And for the time being, because of that, there's not much that Maica and Quintana have been able to do to really harm Joaquim Rodriguez over the last couple of kilometres. The gap steady at something like 46 kilometres, so something like 46 seconds, I should say, rather, something like 25 seconds short of what Maica requires if he's going to nudge himself up into second place. Still less than the time gap that these two need to catch Ruben Plaza, though, who just is not going to relent. 1 minute and 18 seconds in 1.5 kilometres for Plaza. His is the stage win for sure. Voganov takes his place at the front of that line. Esteban Chavez drops to the back of the white jersey. His thoughts will start to wander fairly soon as he knows that he is within touching distance of his first Grand Tour win.
There's Adam Hansen, it looks like he's actually going to finish to break the record for Grand Tours if he does that. So he'll be happy to get through this. It's pretty miraculous. What is his 13th Grand Tour in a row, I think.
History maker. History makers wherever you look. Ruben Plaza within 900 metres of the finish. His team car will come alongside him, and his director sportif will just offer the last few moments of encouragement. Totally unnecessary, self-motivating. Well, it's actually 1 kilometre to go for Ruben Plaza now. He's taking the congratulations and the thanks. This is an immense win as an individual. This is very, very rare on a stage like that.
It's very rare, especially this, well, in any race. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that DeMarchi, nobody in that group of 38 when he left the group and began his solo attack over 115 kilometers from the finish, they'd have thought it was just a futile move. And evidently, he's just been strong enough to hold it off, which you would have never anticipate normally.
This group have got things pretty much sewn down as well. The green jersey and the white jersey know that unless something dramatically changes over the closing kilometres, their positions are relatively safe. Ruben Plaza will be thinking about his past, though. 35 years old, Plaza, one of the oldest men in the race. And he first won a stage on the Vuelta a Espana 10 years ago. And he finished 6th overall that year in 2005. Back then, it was an individual time trial that he won by just 0.6 of a second after 38.9 kilometres of effort. Well, today, the effort he's had to put down solo, his individual time trial, you like, was something like 3 times as long as that. So well might he smile, well might he celebrate, and well might the Spanish fans, denied a victory in the overall race, celebrate one of their own, taking stage 20 in the most dramatic fashion possible, or the bravest fashion, should I say. A solo attack, stupidly far out, 115 kilometres of suffering, all on his own. He takes his gloves off, right-handed, left-handed, throws it to the crowd, enjoying this now. He's got time on his hands. The chasers are nowhere near him. Just a flotilla of cars and a huge crowd to witness the moment when Ruben Plaza did the double. A Tour win and a win on home turf in the Vuelta a Espana. Jose Gonçalves and Alessandro DeMarchi taking up the 2nd and 3rd positions on the road, and will be contesting that between them. For the time being, DeMarchi just letting Gonçalves do the work and lead him out. 2 kilometres remaining now for, is this the Maica group? This is the group containing Nairo Quintana and Rafa Maica, who did everything that they could possibly to shake the green jersey and maybe even the white jersey of Fabio Aru off significantly enough to move themselves into closer contention, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Gonçalves and Demarchi, right-handed now. Demarchi's been very canny here, just letting Gonçalves do all the work. It would be a shame in a way for Gonçalves, one of the most attacking riders, if he loses out to the BMC man here, but he is, well, he's opening up a gap, and I don't think Demarchi can respond, so second place will go to the man from Caja Rural, and well-deserved indeed. One of the strongest riders on his team and one of the strongest riders on the race. And Demarchi, resurgent form for him throughout the 3 weeks racing.
And here I have Maika, this is, Maika and Quintana's group, so this, and the rest of the riders are with them are the 38 that originally Ruben Plaza was with, and Demarchi and Gonçalves. Those were the riders they'd left behind, which Quintana and Maika have caught up with and now slowly dropping. And now they know, Zestana know they've won the Tour. I
think I was Luis Leon Sanchez. Probably dual celebrations for him, a Spanish win, but he knows now that his man, the Italian in the white jersey, is going to win the Vuelta. He can sit up and start to celebrate. There's nothing now that Rafa Maika with Nairo Quintana can do on his wheel there, can do to dislodge this fantastic win by Fabio Aru. What an immense performance it's been by the Italian. Quintana, though, taking it on. I think he's moved ahead now. Difficult to see from here, but Quintana is Rafa Maika's on his wheel. So Quintana leaving nothing on the road here, sprinting for all he's worth to gain every single possible second. He's not able to open up a gap to Rafa Maika, who's had a good day today. Been able to track Nairo Quintana's acceleration on the climb, absolutely glued to his wheel. The two went over the top of the final climb together, and Rafa Maika and he have worked together to try and dislodge Joaquim Rodriguez. Maika just moves to the front, sprinting for his line. He'll be thinking about the clock, as I think, well, is that...
Mosa, I think.
That will be of no concern to Rafa Maika as he lunges for the line, and when he crosses it, it's all about the clock. 2:41 down on the winner. That was the moment when Maika crosses the line, and he has 1 minute and 7 seconds over the green jersey of Joaquim Rodriguez to make up. If he can possibly do that, then he will find himself in second place overall. So when we next get a shot of Rodriguez, that'll be uppermost in the mind of the Spaniard. For Rodriguez, this is just a rearguard action now. Gritting his teeth, Aru knows that the race is won in the white jersey. Third wheel behind Rodriguez now, but this is a battle Rodriguez has. Surely he's got enough time in the locker now. 2:41, the clock stopped, so what is it? Something like 40 seconds. The advantage that Maika has just taken out over Rodriguez is not going to be enough for Rafa Maika. I think it's going to be enough for Rodriguez. Chavez moves to the front. Rodriguez will cross the line, I'm sure, although it cannot come fast enough for Rodriguez in second place. And there is Fabio Aru crossing the line and winning the Vuelta. Well, Aru then, in all of that, an aggressive and defensive ride. He takes the congratulations of his teammates. He came to the race expecting to do battle with Quintana, with Valverde, with Chris Froome and Rodriguez, perhaps even internally with Vincenzo Nibali and Mikel Landa on his own team, but instead he found himself pushed into the last kilometres of the very last stage by a man who at times in Tom Dumoulin looked like an immovable object. In the end, though, Aru forced the chink in the Dutchman's armour and he felled the giant. Never mind the rest. This is Aru's moment, his race and his year. Second on the Giro, and now his first Grand Tour. The Vuelta a España goes to Fabio Aru. Well, the Vuelta a España just proved at the very last stage where he had to defend just too much for Tom Dumoulin. But before our eyes, we've watched the evolution of a Grand Tour rider. At first tentative and then ever more commanding. Tom Dumoulin has learned so much about himself and his capacity over the last 3 weeks, and the cycling world has woken up to a terrific talent.
Well, win or lose, he was going to be mobbed by cameras, and entirely understandable that Tom Dumoulin should not be in the mood to navigate a finish line scrum today. To make matters worse, he found himself locked out of the team car. Once a key had been procured and he'd taken time to compose himself, though, he spoke to Matt.
Tom, you were within 12 seconds on the descent, and then Aru caught a couple of his teammates, and that was the moment you lost the Vuelta.
No, I lost the Vuelta already before. I mean, if I would have come back in the descent, then anyway I would have dropped straight away on the next climb. It was only if I would have come back, that would have been nice, but that would not have saved my Vuelta.
We can see how you feel now, but at the same time, can you remember what a great ride you've had, and do you feel proud of what you've achieved here, Tom?
At the moment, it's just disappointment. I think tomorrow I will be proud, but now it's just disappointment.
At the other end of the emotional spectrum was Ruben Plaza with the longest solo attack of the Vuelta and one of the best stage wins. No one could get within a minute of him today. José Gonçalves was the best of the rest, ahead of Alessandro De Marchi. Rafa Maica was the first of the big names home, with a couple of seconds over Nairo Quintana that he didn't really need, and 55 over Joaquin Rodriguez, who came in with Esteban Chaves and Fabio Aru. That margin wasn't quite enough to give Maica second place, but with Dumoulin coming in 35th, 7 minutes 30 down, he was comfortably third. Although he waited until the proof rolled across the line before believing it and reacting accordingly.
Yes! Yes!
Rafa, third in the Vuelta, how does that feel?
Yeah, that's I tell, it's now over and I'm so happy. My birthday, I go today full gas really and I feel it good, and thank you my teammates, because it's always tell me, it's Rafa, it's now over, it's now over. And I go today full gas and I take third place. It's so close for the second also.
Close, but second is where Joaquin Rodriguez will finish overall, and he's first in the points competition, subject to Alejandro Valverde trying to outsprint him tomorrow.
Allora Joaquín, la reacción fue...
Pues sí, sano y salvo. Al final el pasar meta para mí ha sido un alivio. He sufrido muchísimo, te puedo asegurar que no lo he visto claro hasta el último metro, porque veía que no solamente Maica, sino hasta en Quintana me podía sacar del podium. Ha sido una etapa espectacular, la verdad que enhorabuena a todos porque ha sido muy dura.
If Perito's chief emotion was relief, Fabio Aru's must have been elation, tinged with Sardinian pride judging from his choice of accessories on the podium, but he was relatively low-key when he spoke to Matt after taking the one red jersey of the race that matters.
Congratulazioni Fabio, è un momento quando hai raggiunto due colleghi nella discesa dalla penultima salita. In quel momento hai saputo che hai vinto la Vuelta?
Ma no, sin quando non arrivi al traguardo non è mai detta. Io ho avuto anche oggi, come tutte le tappe, una grandissima squadra, dei grandissimi compagni, un gruppo veramente unito che ci ha aiutato a superare delle difficoltà. Oggi Vanotti è partito con una forte botta al Coccige e ha sofferto tutta la gara, ma è rimasto lì. Tiralongo è partito con 30 punti sul volto, e anche questo è un segno che tutti i miei compagni hanno dato il massimo, e quindi questa vittoria l'hanno fatta loro, cioè questo risultato. Non so, l'unica parola che posso dire è dirgli un grande grazie.
Fabio, ti vediamo sempre molto concentrato, però sei contento, vero?
Ma io non mi esalto né quando vinco né quando perdo, e quindi preferisco restare umile con i piedi per terra. Grazie.
So here's the final order of this year's Vuelta. Fabio Aru's winning margin is 1:17 over Joaquin Rodriguez, with Rafa Maica 12 seconds behind him in third. Nairo Quintana finishes fourth, Esteban Chaves fifth, and Tom Dumoulin slips from the top step of the podium to sixth. Alejandro Valverde, Mikel Nieve, Danny Moreno and Louis Meintjes occupy places 7 to 10.